Here are 5 really weird things you do in games and exactly why you do them.
Games are weird. Try to explain to someone who doesn't play games why you're climbing a tower just to stylishly jump off it again, and you'll quickly realise that we're used to some very strange behaviours. Yet for all that games make us jump through some odd hoops to progress, it's the things we do in games that we're not specifically asked to do that are strange.
Yep, it's not the game that makes you hold on to every single gun you're ever given just in case you need it for the next encounter, and it's definitely not XCOM that forces you to name your crew after your friends and then watch them die. You know who you are. Here are 5 really weird things you do in games and exactly why you do them.
You know the drill. You're playing a shooter or an RPG and find yourself a new shiny gun. It's big, it's lethal, and you're never going to end up using it because you're too scared you'll waste vital damage you'll need in the next area. Thus, it stays in your inventory, gathering digital dust, when actually you could probably have watched everything explode happily and been gifted more ammunition further down the line. So there you are, alone with your pistol.
The good news is that you aren't actually alone, that just in case I need it justification is warranted after all, and it's actually something that now game designers try and avoid. Whether it's guns, health or other items, no one wants you to waste inventory space or have to endure the trickier bits of games. Yet how hard you suffer from must pick up and keep everything forever syndrome changes from person to person.
In his paper, The Collecting Itself Feels Good, Zachary O'Toops from New Mexico State University mentions a few of these different studies, including what's called the brain hex model that has gamers broken down into 7 categories. But when it comes to collecting in-game items and holding onto them for dear life, it turns out that you can't actually pin it down to one handy personality trait. Sometimes we're not actually like Sims.
Toops and his team assessed 189 people's in-game collecting habits and uncovered that collecting and hoarding behaviours comes down to 2 things: value or pleasure. Some gamers collect things of value, so useful guns or armour, and others will pick up various other MacGuffins because they bring them genuine happiness to own in the digital world.
Just like in real life, we also want to be able to display our digital collections, and games that let us show off all our spoils are seen in a better light. So it doesn't matter that everything isn't real, we all value pixelated pick-upables like bobbleheads, feathers or guns in different ways. Even the act of collection is a small victory in itself. Ping! Don't you feel better already?
So we've touched on this before, but isn't it a bit weird when we're given an infinite palette of noses, eyes, ears and chins and we just make ourselves all that potential and all we do is grab a mirror, check what's on offer and get busy creating it in the game?
I've referenced it in a previous video, but the paper This Drives Me Nuts, How Gaming Technologies Can Elicit Positive Experiences by Means of Negative Emotions discusses this very thing in detail. Stefano Traberti explains that while games teach us how to deal with all kinds of stress and anxiety, they also help us gaze back on ourselves as people thanks to our avatars. Where's that mirror again?
Studies have shown that just how positive you feel about a game depends on your link or perceived convergence between your in-game self and your ideal self. So basically how much a game lets you be the best version of you that you can be.
Players are more motivated to play games where you can embody your ideal characteristics, so the first part of that is making you look like you in the first place. If you're going to get super, have incredible powers, get ridiculous weaponry and be a friendly neighbourhood superhero, you better look as much like you as you can. You don't want NPCs thinking you're someone else, do you?
This also explains why when you jump into XCOM, you name everyone after your friends. You're not thinking about how you'll feel in a few hours as Matt doesn't come limping home again, you're thinking about making you and your friends alien hunting superstars. It's not just that you ran out of names, you want to feel good and be the best version of yourself that you can be, with your best pals along for the ride. Oh, and Matt.
But then there's the other side of the gaming coin, the darker one where we murder everything in sight. That's definitely not on your ideal self list, so why do we go around not just killing everyone, but kind of enjoying it in the process? It's okay to admit it.
The moral disengagement in violent video games model by communication science professor Thilo Hartmann discusses this very dilemma and whether you're a terrible person for committing these acts. Spoiler, you're not. First off, it's important to note that most people don't commit violence in games with the justification of it's not real. Studies have found that we do feel that our gaming activities are meaningful and emotional.
Instead, video games are faced with making us do terrible things, but justifying it. Using Bandura's social cognitive theory of moral thought plot and action, video games make us believe that our moral transgressions, all the death, are justified because characters in games are behaving immorally. Hartman says that we do feel like NPCs are real. They look us in the eye, behave like humans, and have a sense of their own intelligence, but we still have to believe that what we're doing is morally right.
There's a number of ways games tell you it's okay to commit violence. You have to save the world again. These characters are terrible and doing evil things. The consequences will be dire. Through a variety of techniques, games make it okay to be a murderer and feel good about it. If you want to know more, we made a video about just this.
In a complete reversal of the previous point, why on earth do we drive on the right side of the road and adhere to traffic regulations in sprawling open worlds? Why do we avoid passers-by and feel bad if we hit someone mid-chase? Well, those pesky morals we spoke about earlier go both ways, just like in real life.
Hartman, who I mentioned earlier, talks extensively on just this. Gamers feel guilty if they do the wrong thing. If violence is committed on innocent people or a moral choice leads to unnecessary death, we really don't like it. Innocent NPC murder isn't okay, and these are negative experiences that our ideal self really isn't up for. We like to behave.
Even moral decisions in games are heavily influenced by our own personalities. Very rarely do we make a Walking Dead choice just to watch the world burn, or, get eaten by the undead. An experimental study by Jokel, Bowman and Dogrule in 2012 showed that the majority of players will select game options that appeal to their own moralities and will actively feel guilty if forced to violate their own convictions.
Or have you done something wrong?
Hence why, in a world of endless possibilities, you walk on the pavement, stick to paths, and don't stab innocent human beings. Well, mostly.
I just got sick in class. Female trouble.
Except you're wandering around like a zombie.
And finally, it's time to address the fact that we really don't like going in the right direction. Sure, there we are, morally behaving with our ideal self, but that doesn't mean we need to do exactly what games tell us to do. We like being dropped into a level, turning around and looking for a chest that might be there specifically because it's in the wrong direction.
There's logic in our counterintuitive madness. We understand game design. We understand the concept of hidden areas and rare chests. And we want them for ourselves. All of this links into our first point about collectibles. Depending on how collection-focused you are, whether it's for useful or pointless trinkets, will depend just how happy you are to while away the time hunting for secrets in the strangest of places.
Yes, rich rewards for a job well done.
Of course, collectibles aren't just what's in the game. Trophies and Steam achievements are just as desirable, and Toops mentions them in his paper we were talking about earlier. We like people seeing our collections of things and take pleasure in being the very best we can be, even if we behave seemingly illogically to get there. So there you have it, all the weird things you do in games that everyone else does too, and why you do them. Let us know in the comments below if there's any particularly strange things you do that you'd like an explanation for. Drop us a like if you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe to Logitech G for more videos just like this one.